Hi again, I'm Scott Goodson, CEO and founder of Strawberry Frog. And now we're going to turn our attention to transforming the culture of the organization, using purpose to change the habits, the mindsets, the behaviors, the rituals of employees. And that's a really, I think, fascinating discussion. I'm going to be joined by three genuinely cool leaders. Christy Pambianchi, who's the Executive Vice President, Chief Human Resources Officer of Verizon. I'm also going to be joined from Amsterdam by Stacey, who is the Chief Transformation and Corporate Affairs Officer at the Heineken Company. And I'm also going to be joined by Stephen Fry, the Senior Vice President and Human Resources and Diversity at Eli Lilly. Welcome, Christy, Stacey, and Stephen. After the past year, wow, what a year. It seems that time has come for leaders who focus on the people and the talent inside organizations to take a leading role in activating purpose. They're doing this to deal with the culture and behavior change that needs to be addressed, and also issues of well-being. And I'll address these questions to each of you. But how do you see purpose as a change tool for the culture of your company? Maybe we could start with you, Christy.
Great. Thank you so much, Scott. And it's great to be here on this panel with all of you, and really looking forward to this discussion. You know, purpose is such an important concept because it really helps customers and employees know what your company's overall why is, and what is it about, and why does it exist. And it really helps employees connect their own why with the why of the organization. And so when you think about a culture transformation, if you can find a purpose that's something employees connect to, it becomes a catalyzer to driving that transformational change, driving that culture, and really having sort of this huge connectivity between individuals' personal goals and the corporation's purpose. And to me, there's like an exponential unlock that happens.
Fascinating. I know that Verizon's going through a change of a new CEO, and Christy, you have been with the firm for, I believe, a year and a half or 2 years. What about Heineken? Obviously, a very established, highly regarded company and brand. How do you think about purpose, Stacey?
Oh, Scott, thank you. Really great to be here as well. I came into this purpose space maybe 10 years ago, and I came in begrudgingly. I came in to exploring purpose and absolutely did not get it. I worked in an organization that was a little bit more serious and more linear in its thought process. And as I was working at Heineken for the first time when I joined the company, our CEO at that operating company, now our global CEO, was really intrigued by this idea that you could unleash something as an exponential kind of factor if you could put your finger on that unique truth that is your why. And the way we came into it was actually through individual purpose. And that was the big unleash factor for me, where all the Legos clicked into place. We went with our executive team into the woods for a few days, and we reflected on our lives, all the crucible moments that had shaped us. And when I was 6 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, 18 years old, what were the patterns of my life that truly made me who I am? Why is the room different when I show up? And how do you do that pattern reflection? And really interestingly, through the sort of observations of your colleagues, mirroring this back to you to help you articulate your individual reason for being. And once I was able to feel that in my bones and the power of knowing my unique why, we then applied it to the organization. And it was a huge sort of accelerator in all of us understanding more innately in our DNA the power that purpose can bring to unleash an entire organization. And purpose, for me, has never been something that you invent or something that you find or search for. It's really reflecting on something that's always been there, finding shared language to put around that unique superpower. And of course, it should stretch you to be the best expression of that thing, but it's really at your core something that has always been incredibly unique to who you are, whether that's as a person or as a company.
Stephen, obviously this past year has put pharmaceutical companies into the forefront like never before. How do you look upon purpose, and has it changed the way you think about purpose over the last few months?
Thanks, Scott. And again, thank you as well for the invitation to be a part of the program today. Yeah, look, we're a 145-year-old company, and I would have said that our founder, Colonel Eli Lilly, when he started the company, really it was driven by a purpose of providing innovative research-based medicines to people who need them. And that's still our purpose today. We unite caring with discovery to create medicines for people. And I think the pandemic, while that's always been true, I think the last year and a few months has brought that to the fore like never before. One of the things that we try to do a lot is connect our employees to patients who rely on our medicines. We start most meetings and end most meetings with some sort of patient story to understand the kind of impact that our medicines and other medicines in the industry have on people. This past year and a half, when the pandemic started, we immediately started to say, what can we do to help fight this horrific thing happening around the world? And literally within record time, we had employees who were probably more focused than ever on making a difference, because they knew that the world was relying on us and of course others in the industry. In our particular case, we had research teams that immediately started to look for antibodies that could fight the coronavirus. And we were fortunate that literally within months, 9 months or so, we discovered, developed, manufactured, and delivered to patients antibodies that saved thousands of lives, not only in this country, but around the world. And I think our employees now more than ever have connected to our purpose in a direct way. It's interesting. I recently read a Harvard Business Review article that said employees who are connected to a culture driven by purpose are 30% less stressed and 50% more focused. And I can tell you that in the last year and a bit through the pandemic, there's no question that our employees have been at least 50% more focused because of the difference they can make for people around the world.
That's fascinating. Those are three great examples of how you are thinking about purpose for three completely different sectors. People think that Simon Sinek discovered why, but I think Viktor Frankl was the first philosopher who said, searching for man's meaning. And so, Stacey, it was a very eloquent way of, bringing that experience you had to life. And I think we all kind of go through that when we're trying to find a purpose that's relevant for the organizations we work for. I think it's particularly interesting, purpose as a tool to change the culture of a company, and the habits, behaviors, rituals of, people who work, the teammates, associates inside. Do you have examples of how purpose is being used in your organization, how it might be changing the culture or changing the way people behave inside your organization? Christy, do you have any examples you might want to share with us?
Yeah, the thing that's been so interesting at Verizon, we are on a transformation called Verizon 2.0. And really the concept of the fact that we need to transform the company from a position of strength. We had brought the 4G networks to bear for all of our customers. They're very, very successful, very capable, but we knew the 5G technology node was happening and we wanted to be first and being able to build that out. So what we launched was a whole transformation program based on the fact that what got us here won't get us there. And we wanted people to know we were really successful and we're really excited about those results, but we needed the team to really think about this next challenge differently. And so we focused on the ways of working that we needed to embed in what we thought was going to be critical to achieving 5G. And that was going to be that we needed highly agile, empowered teams that could really work at speed and innovate, a lot of cross-boundary focus. And we actually reorganized the whole company instead of being product-oriented to be customer-oriented. So we created a consumer and a business and a media-facing unit. And so in order to really bring that home for everybody, we finalized a really simple purpose statement that is, quote, we create the networks that move the world forward. And then we worked hard to help everybody understand what their new organization was, how it tied to the purpose, and what the ways of working were going to be that were going to enable us to achieve that purpose and give people license to adopt these new ways of working. And it's been incredibly exciting and catalyzing. And we called it Leadership Edge and Edge training for all employees to really kind of practice exercises of these new ways of working, but all toward empowering people and allowing for much more cross-functional agile teams to form. And you can do that. You can unleash empowerment. You can unleash giving people a lot of autonomy in their roles when there's unity on the purpose and what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish and why you're trying to accomplish it. Because that gives people not only something to affiliate with and feel like my why matches the purpose of the company, but also now that I understand that, I'm going to be able to make good decisions with data and teammates around me. And that was what we were really trying to unlock, which is the whole power of, we call it the V team. If we have 135,000 employees, how can we unlock the whole power of the V team working in a common direction, serving our customers, serving the market, serving the world, and then at the same time finding personal fulfillment.
I know when you were on the journey of your work, you had to think about some of the, I guess, ways that the orthodoxies that you had and get beyond those in order to develop a new culture. Could you talk a little bit about that? I found that quite fascinating.
Yeah, we in this Leadership Edge program, and we got great reactions from employees as well. We actually had people reflect on what were the orthodoxies that existed in the organization that might need to change or go away in order to unlock the potential and bring the Verizon 2.0 ways of working to life. And by doing sort of exercises around it, starting with senior leaders all the way down to our frontline teams, it sort of empowered people to call them out and identify them as these are orthodoxies or sort of unwritten rules or things that are out there in the organizational culture, which is really what they are, these rituals and habits that might need to be re-examined in light of the future direction of where we were heading. And not in any way to say they may not have they probably served the company very well under what the objectives were to get to where we were. And we actually do table exercises, report it out, and it gave people a feeling of like freedom and power to confront it and feel safe, potentially creating and adopting new rituals. So I remember I really enjoyed the conversation, Stacey, about the woods and the trip. It's like a deep reflective moment away from it to just say, what are those orthodoxies? And we had, a lot of formality in the structure. And there was, obviously a lot of very detailed operational reviews. We're a company that operates at scale. No customers want an outage. We have incredibly high reliability standards, et cetera. But we felt to go to 5G and the innovative space that we needed to go to, we needed to unleash a lot more of that creativity and autonomy and agile working between teams. And in order to do that, we would probably then have less emphasis on hierarchy, less emphasis on, detailed, exhaustive reviews. Obviously, we're still attentive to detail, but really giving people the freedom to say, hey, this is a working session. We don't need 18 pre-meetings before the meeting. Let's just have the meeting. And that was a little bit of a pause. Like you could just see even senior, leaders, a few levels around the leadership team of the company wondering if we were serious about it. And the way we were able to break down the orthodoxies was not only inviting people to identify them, but then have us, the CEO and his team, really lead by breaking the orthodoxy.
It's so fascinating. Stacey, when we think of Heineken, it's the truly global company. I mean, everywhere I've traveled, and I've traveled a lot in this world, there's always Heineken. How do you use a purpose to, first of all, to unite a global or genuinely global organization and then change that culture and or habits of the people working?
Heineken is super global and a 157-year-old fourth generation family company. We're still having our largest shareholder as Charlene Heineken from the Heineken family. And knowing that we have employees everywhere from Papua New Guinea to Sierra Leone to Peru and every country in between, There's a beautiful localism and entrepreneurship to that. When we build a brewery, we're there for 80, 90, 100 years. But as you say, you need strong values, you need strong culture, you need a strong articulated purpose to create that connective tissue and help everyone feel like they belong to that one big green family. So we, interestingly, had articulated purpose in many of our operating companies. But as a global company in 157 years, we've actually never articulated a collective purpose. So we are in that process now. We spent time listening to tens of thousands of consumers and tens of thousands of employees to get their input. We actually last week just did a synthesis with our executive team for a few days to start to kind of hone and identify the patterns. And we'll shortly this fall be bringing purpose for the first time to employees. But I've seen, whether it was at the Heineken US business, where I started with the company originally, where I took a brief departure and went into retail with Home Depot, where we also did purpose work there and uncovered that Home Depot was all about empowering the doer in all of us. And by having that doer language and that doer lens, we could think about our foundation and our philanthropy differently, from putting 20,000 skilled tradespeople from the military into the US economy, to how we are creating an experience in the stores when you're bringing people into doing, whether it's workshops, et cetera, teaching, making it easy for folks to do projects, to inspiring through digital content. That moment of satisfaction when you have done it, when you've accomplished it and you've got your hands on your hips, admiring your work. It was just an incredible lens to be able to prioritize and focus. I think purpose, whether it's individual purpose or company purpose, it's like a map. It helps you remember how to get home. And my Sherpa on this subject of purpose, who helped me originally with individual purpose, is a guy named Nick Craig. And his purpose is to wake you up and help you realize that you're home. And I think that's what purpose does. It wakes you up and makes sure that you are standing in that uniqueness so that you can be the best expression of whatever that purpose is.
That's great. I love that thought. Thank you. Stephen, how about you? I mean, how is purpose, or how do you use purpose to change, the culture now that we've been through this last year? Obviously the organization has probably, felt highly motivated because of what's been happening. But how do you channel that? And how do you use purpose to achieve your business objectives?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Maybe let me start with just a little bit of our story about how we even defined our purpose. A few years ago, we also went through a CEO transition. And interestingly, at the time, he said, let's not change anything about sort of our expectations, our culture, our mission, et cetera. Let's just keep going. But we heard a lot of feedback from our employees with a lot of energy around our purpose at the time. And we did an inventory of sort of mission statements, vision statements, behavioral expectations, all these things over a period of time. And just walking around our facilities and campus, you could see, words from years ago that we stopped using. And we decided that we needed to do an exercise to really simplify for our team, both internally and externally, what the company was all about. And it actually ended with a purpose statement. So we got rid of mission statements and vision statements and completely focused in on our purpose, which, as I said earlier, is Lilly Unites Caring with Discovery to create medicines to make life better for people around the world. And that's where we are today. We've not changed that. Now, of course, that purpose statement is not good enough on its own. It takes employee action and a culture to help drive that. So we have underneath our purpose statement a culture really defined by two things. Our core values, which are integrity, quality, and respect for people. And I think if you were to go do an unaided question to all of our employees around the world, you would get 98% recall on those values. They've been around for a long, long time. But we also defined and simplified what we call the expectations that we have of our employees to drive our purpose. And those are first include, because we know we have to have an environment and a culture where everybody can be respected, valued, welcome, and heard. We need the best minds around the world if we're going to compete in this industry that we are competing in and make a difference for patients. We want to innovate, not just with big breakthrough medicines, but literally in our everyday work and just improve constantly how we work to make a difference for patients. We want to accelerate. We've got to be more agile. We have to be faster. And finally, of course, we want to deliver. So those are our 4 employee expectations that we now have integrated into every part of our HR processes or every part of our work in the company to reinforce what our expectations are that will drive towards that purpose. And that has been a tremendous change effort for us over the last 3 to 4 years. And I think, as I said earlier, our employees now are probably better connected to our purpose than any moment in our history. And we reinforce this constantly with making sure we connect employees to what we're doing and the difference we are making for patients.
This has been an incredibly interesting session. We could go on, I'm sure, for another hour. We only have 5 minutes left, but just quickly, I was going to ask each of you if you have an example of how purpose has helped you through difficult times in the last year.
I think, our industry and certainly our company, our work has never been clearer why we do what we do. The pandemic has brought this out. And I think that more than ever, the need that patients have, and by the way, not just with COVID, but diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, these devastating diseases that people are afflicted with, our employees are globally wake up every morning wanting to make a difference for people. That's why people stay with our company for so long. And we're going to keep that sort of mantra and continue to drive purpose, because we think, again, if we can continue to be a purpose-driven organization, we will have more engagement, more energy, more commitment than ever from our team. And they're the ones our team are the ones who discover and make medicines. They don't make themselves. So thanks for having me again.
I'll jump in, just building on those comments. What obviously COVID was just a tremendous crisis that called all of leaders to action. And so in our case, as we were navigating the early phases of COVID and the pandemic, going from Asia to Europe to the US during that Q1 of 2020, we actually were able to say, we're going to approach this through the lens of our purpose. How do we, if we create the networks that move the world forward, how do we keep people connected through this crisis and keep our people safe? And every time we were confronted with a new dimension of the crisis, that was right at the center of how we thought of our response, how we talked to our employees about it. And then you had the compounding of then the racial and social justice crisis that started just a year ago yesterday with George Floyd's murder. And again, we were able to leverage that to think about how do we respond, have a voice in the community around the need for racial justice, and how can we be a leader in and outside our company in that regard. And really, it's continued. We're about 15 months now into the crisis management that many of our firms have been in. And the purpose has really been this glue at the center of keeping us all together, keeping us thriving, and I think has just been an immense benefit to our organization as we all leaned on each other to cope and take care of our customers and our employees.
To avoid being repetitive, such beautiful things shared and really resonated with a lot of my experiences too. Maybe a personal anecdote from a few years ago, actually, in a time of crisis, different kind of crisis, but where I was running a couple of businesses for Home Depot that were very much in a turnaround. And it was tough stuff. There were some very challenging, emotionally challenging things going on beyond business shrinking double digits that really affected people and their ability to make an income. And I was getting a lot of engagement and tough feedback, good, helpful, direct feedback in many ways from employees all over the business across the US about how tough it was, how much it was affecting their marriages, how it was affecting their children. And there were nights I was working till 10, 11 in the office, and I would just look out at the Atlanta skyline. And I would think, what am I doing? Why am I here? Why did I think that I could come and help and get us back to growth? I don't know how, there's so many unsolvable problems. The list of things that we have to tackle is so long, it almost feels impossible to know how to prioritize. And the number of email, 1,000 emails in, you can never, it just feels like you're on a treadmill to nowhere, and you cannot keep your little nose above the waterline. And one of those nights I was looking out the window and thinking and feeling really dejected. And I had a framed print of my individual purpose statement that my former team had given to me. And my eyes fell on that frame. And my individual purpose is to ignite the worthy fight and blow your hair back. And it was like somebody put the paddles on me and woke me up. And I thought, okay, I know why I'm here. I'm here to ignite the worthy fight. This is a worthy fight. We can do this. And from that moment forward, I had a different sense of belief. And I stepped into the shoes that I was supposed to be standing in to serve that organization in the moment when they needed someone with that purpose. I was meant to be there. So it was my map. It woke me up and reminded me that I was home. And it let me navigate through and get the business. We got the business back to double-digit growth and did some just wonderful things together. But it went back to purpose. And if it can do that for one person, if you can do that for an organization, it is a true force multiplier.
I was thinking, during the last year, for me, the example that I used is being a bit like a captain of a sailing ship. If when the water's calm, it can be quite boring, but when the waves get huge and the wind blows, if you don't have a deep rudder, which in effect is the purpose, you really kind of go all over the place. You're tackling, particularly if you're a leader of a large organization, you don't have that grounding. And I think all of you, in your own way, sort of conveyed that sentiment today. So this has been really incredibly interesting, deeply illuminating on how purpose is being used inside companies, transform, motivate. And so I deeply appreciate you joining us, Christy and Stacey and Stephen. Really helpful, really inspiring for all of us. And I just want to close out by saying, please join us for the sessions that are about to come. This is the largest Purpose Summit of 2021. I've been joined by Christy, Stacey, and Stephen, three incredible leaders who are making change happen through purpose inside their large organizations. Thanks everyone for joining us. This has been a truly great panel. Please stay tuned. We've got some amazing sessions coming up for the Purpose Power Summit.